you happen to get back in office for another 4 years, what are you going to do? You're going to rinse and repeat here. We all pay the exact same for gas and for food. You have families living from paycheck to paycheck. Some can't even make it to paycheck to paycheck.
Welcome back to the Dvory Darkins Show. This is just another video showing how black men are not truly committed to Kamala Harris. Now, is she going to still get majority of the black vote in comparison to former President Trump? Yes. But will she get it at the same percentage that Joe Biden and President Obama got? Probably not. Not at this point. Unless something changes dramatically over the next 30 days. Probably not. So what we're going to do is look at two clips. One is from a CNN panel where they bring on black men and they ask them after the DNC, after her speech, what do they think? And then the second is reacting to the clip from Jermaine Dupri, who is a celebrity. He is in music and he says out loud what a lot of black people are thinking. And the one thing you should pay attention to throughout this entire video is one word: policy.
For me, I am a black man with a family. And, Anthony made the point about the connection. When for me, mentioning her father, who is a black man, for me, what makes her black is her father, not an HBCU, not a sorority. And so that's the connection I'm looking for. I was looking to hear more about policy. I think a lot of us were. And so I didn't hear a lot about policy as I would have liked.
I did not expect her to speak heavy on policy. Very rarely will you ever see a presidential candidate at an acceptance speech or even on a stump speak with details on policies. It's what we do after they get elected and get in office and holding their feet to the fire is where we as black men and as a black community have failed. And this time we cannot fail.
I don't know where he was going with that. I just want to pause really quick. That's not a true statement. If you go back and listen to former President Trump's RNC speech, 25 minutes of it was zero policy, motivational speech, similar to Kamala Harris. Very motivational, very emotional, very touching. And then the remainder was about what he's going to do when he gets into office, about immigration, about inflation, about the economy, about energy. That's all he was talking about. And obviously talking about the current administration and what they've done to this country.
I didn't hear the things from an economical standpoint that I was looking for. My main question here is that if you happen to get back in office for another 4 years, what are you going to do? You're going to rinse and repeat here. We all pay the exact same for gas and for food. You have families living from paycheck to paycheck. Some can't even make it to paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, this Charles gentleman, he's spot on. Is it just going to be more of the same? I mean, it's a legitimate question. And she's yet to answer that. She has yet to say anything that she's going to do differently than President Biden. In fact, the platform that they're running on, the policies that they're running on, they reference President Biden's economic policies in that platform. So, it's just going to be more of the same. She's a puppet. They're just going to try to control her.
Anthony, do you believe the polls that show that black men in a substantial way are shifting to former President Trump?
I was in the barbershop today, right? And there's this real kind of resolve that a lot of folks who are younger millennials are having, which is, hey, I make a little bit of money. I want to keep my money, right? And the country has never really worked for black men, so what do I have to lose? And so black men are beginning to vote with their pocketbooks. And I think that's not misguided.
Voting with your pocketbooks is misguided. No, what's misguided is voting for the same party for the last 60 years and not getting anything in return. And the one time you guys actually did get something, which was the lowest unemployment rate, which under President Trump, you guys don't want to vote for that again? I'm not understanding. That is the virus that exists in the black community. I would respect more black people if they just didn't identify with any party and they voted based on hey, who's going to give us the results? I would respect that conversation more than the conversation of, well, hey, as black people, we need black policies, and, you know, we need someone black in the White House, and she's a female, and, you know, I don't respect that, because that means that results and policies that actually help every American, not just black Americans, but every American, you know, that's going on the back burner because a statement needs to be made. You know, I just don't value that.
What is the relevance of sex here? Sexism is as pervasive in this country as racism is. Do you think it's going to hurt her with voters, men, black men specifically?
You know, the black community, for us, we're used to women being in leadership. So for us, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
I would say that I agree and disagree. I think it may be a problem because a lot of African American business, particular black male business, feel a little threatened because there's a huge movement when it comes to black woman business. And so, number one, we shouldn't let them divide us that particular way. But the movement is so great for African American women, and we support them.
No one feels threatened about black women having businesses and being successful. That's not black men's issue. Black men's issue is that black women are putting that success and that recognition before marriage and children. That's our issue. So as long as our women continue to do that, our culture is going to continue to collapse. That's what's happening right now. Meaning children who are born out of wedlock and children being raised by single parents, we have the highest rate. Not Asians, not Indians, not Jews, not whites, but the black community. That's the real issue. And it's the issue that most people don't want to talk about.
We want that. And sometimes I think African American men can feel like they're outpacing us when we should be together at the exact same time.
How relevant is her support for a woman's right to make medical decisions about her body?
It's the woman's body, so she should be able to dictate her terms of her body.
The Lord made life. Jesus Christ made life, and you have to value life. So Kamala wants to take life.
Exactly. Listen, if you guys want to make it to where women can say whatever they want to do with their body and they can kill a baby, then men should be able to say, hey, we're not going to pay any child support. We should be able to have a say in that. You see, that's what I'm saying. This conversation, it's just filled with hypocrisy from the very beginning. And if we would just lean on God, it makes everything easier. Okay? If you choose to open up your legs and get pregnant, you have two choices, really. Within 24 hours, you could take a Plan B pill. That's right at Rite Aid, Walgreens, or your local pharmacy. Easily available. Or two, you have a kid, and if you don't want the kid, then you give the kid up for adoption. I was adopted. I don't understand why that is so hard for people to understand. Both of those points.
So much that we don't know as men that we don't have the privilege to opine on. Like, we will never have a period. We will never go through childbirth. So to even fix our mouths to comment on how, I don't care what God said it, women have the right to govern their bodies.
And that's the problem. You don't care what God says. That's the problem with our country, is we keep pushing God away when God is the reason why we're here. All right, it's a little tough to watch, in my opinion, because clearly CNN, they edit out a lot of what they were saying to try to make it a short clip instead of just let us hear exactly everything they said and what they meant. So that's my first reaction to that. Now, let's just dive into a couple points and we'll move to the next video. Point number one, not all black people think the same, of course. We all have different views. We all have different upbringings. Black people in California, they're different than black people in Texas. I mean, it's just culture and environment plays a huge role. So that's why you're going to hear different opinions in the black community, of course. But what you didn't hear, an overwhelming support for Kamala Harris, like you would have heard with former President Barack Obama, right? That's my first point. The second point, it's just judge a person by results. If we judge Kamala Harris by results, she should not be the nominee. Bottom line, she has not done anything to further this country in a positive way. She hasn't. Just name one thing. Name me one accomplishment that she has under her belt that we could say, damn, you know what? She's right on that. There's nothing. But there's a litany of things that you could say for President Trump. You could talk about the HBCU funding that he put in place, which was what? To make sure that every single year, no matter what, they got funding. You could talk about the First Step Act that he collaborated with Kim Kardashian on. You could talk about the fact that he moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. You could talk about the fact that Russia did not invade any country under his administration, but all other presidents, they have. You can also talk about the fact that he's the one president that gave the biggest tax breaks to everyone from the top down. Now, whether you agree with those policies, he has a resume that has positively impacted people. She doesn't have that, which leads to this video from Jermaine Dupri questioning whether or not she's going to do what she says she's going to do, or will she just be like every other Democrat that has come before her, where they promise one thing but do another.
Asked the question that I kind of asked Kamala when we had our second meeting, if, the fact that she's in office right now, she's in the White House right now. And the guy, he said, what makes y'all believe that she's going to get this stuff done if she becomes president and she's already in the House? And it's a tricky question, because I asked Kamala basically the same thing, right? In so many words. And I asked her, like, as the vice president, why they don't let her talk when, Biden seems like he needed someone to speak up for him. I thought that's what the role of the vice president was.
I'll answer that question really quick. They did let her do that at the very beginning of the administration. And then you know what happened? They found that she couldn't do that very effectively. So they muzzled her. They put her in the background and they silenced her. That's what happened. That's why they don't let her go off script. That's why you haven't really heard from her up to this point, except at the DNC. That's as good as it's going to get right now. Or that she did do an interview, but she did it with her VP running mate. They interviewed each other. I mean, come on, guys. And I find that to be funny that he doesn't even realize that.
Was to help the president. And basically, she kind of let me know that her hands was tied, that they didn't really allow her to be a voice like that in that space. And tonight, I don't know if she's gonna, I want to see how if she even touches on this, because if she doesn't touch on it, that's the question that I feel like the people that have mixed decisions about voting for her, this is one of the questions. This is the top question that they had.
I want you guys to truly drill this into your mind. This is how I think. Isn't it already a problem that we have to have this conversation about her? Right? That we have to have a conversation about, well, why hasn't she answered these questions? Where does she really stand? Why hasn't she been speaking up? Why didn't she speak up during her time as vice president? I mean, isn't it crazy we have to even have that conversation? The fact that we have to have that conversation is a problem. Would we have to have that conversation if someone like Dean Phillips was running, or Gretchen Whitmore, or a Josh Shapiro, or a Pete Buttigieg, or even if RFK Jr. was the Democratic nominee instead, right? Like, would we have to have this conversation? No, we wouldn't. Right? Because we would know where they stand, because they go out there unscripted and speak. It shows you the weakness of her campaign. And my final takeaway, which I believe is the biggest example of what's really wrong with her campaign to begin with. Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, is supposed to be a racist. He's supposed to be someone that people shouldn't vote for. He's supposed to be the threat to democracy. He's a person who's going to take rights away from women. And Kamala Harris is a woman, a person of color, and is the candidate of joy. So why is she not polling better then? Why is she not up by 10 points like Hillary Clinton was? Why is that? Why is Trump's poll numbers higher than they've ever been? Make that make sense. That's my mindset. What about you? What do you guys think about what these black men said when they're being interviewed by the CNN anchor, and what Jermaine Dupri said about his questions when it comes to Kamala Harris? Leave your answers and more in the comment section below. Thank you for checking out the video today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Stay grateful, stay focused, and stay true. Peace.